Greetings, believers and non-believers. This is RabidApe here with a response to a response from Inmendum, posting as SufferingSucks, as well as an apology to Liam's vlog channel and my audience as a whole. Liam had made a video addressed directly to me, and I thought it thought-provoking enough to warrant a video response, but my life doesn't leave me with as much room for YouTube as it used to, and I was afraid to let Liam's video fall to the back burner, so I posted a quick, not well thought out reply, and was quickly taken to task by Inmendum. I didn't feel great about my video at the time, but I also did not know there were so many people who felt so strongly about this topic. My video was rather sloppy, and I was not nearly as clear as I could have been. I don't expect to change any minds with this video, but I do hope to at least articulate my position better and tie up some loose ends I had left. At the end of the day, there are plenty of other things I'd rather be talking about, so I hope this will be my last foray into this topic, but only time will tell. My plan here is to recap Liam's thesis and give it a worthy response by way of replying to Inmendum's criticisms. Also, thanks to the comments left on all three of the previously mentioned videos, I feel I have a much better idea of what I'm actually arguing against. I did not exercise due diligence in understanding the topic. I literally watched Liam's video and then immediately posted my reply via YouTube's quick capture direct upload feature, so once again, my apologies. Here's the recap of Liam's argument.
I saw your video on bad ideas, and I figured that I would present you with a bad idea that I don't think gets nearly enough attention because it's quite counterintuitive. Life itself is a bad idea. This belief is called anti-natalism, essentially. And I'll just run you through one of the arguments. Number one, you cannot ask a child for consent for it to be born. Therefore, life is forced upon that child. We cannot be certain that the child's life will be worth living. Giving birth to a child is making a gamble with somebody else's welfare when we cannot be sure of the outcome of that gamble, that it is therefore immoral. This is just a rough outline of one of the arguments. There are more out there, but I'd like to hear what you have to think on it.
Now, my initial response to this was kind of trying to do two things at once, but I didn't explicitly separate them, which I feel contributed to the muddiness of the presentation. So just to be clear, one, I do not agree with the premise that life is a bad idea or that procreating is intrinsically immoral. But even if I personally accepted that conclusion, and most people did as well, I do not know how we would go about implementing or enforcing antinatalism as a policy. For me, this whole idea raises many questions, which again might be more hypothetical than practical or relevant, but I think the answers would be illuminating nonetheless. I don't want to be fighting against straw men here, so I'm curious. Do you think nobody should reproduce, period? I can buy into the idea that there are too many people on the planet and we should take measures to reduce the population, but eliminating it is something else entirely. What exactly is the endgame here? I can imagine a hypothetical scenario where people stopped having babies, but that still leaves all of animal life red in tooth and claw. So if the idea is to end suffering, we still would have failed. Would you encourage or welcome something that literally destroyed the planet and killed all living things? Should we devote all of our society's resources to crashing the moon into the Earth or forcing the Earth closer to the sun? The sheer amount of resources and unity of purpose required to achieve either of these goals is, I would think, comparable to what would be required to eradicate aging, disease, and poverty, convincing all people to be vegetarians, and exterminating all forms of carnivorous life while providing unrestricted access to drug-induced euphoria and/or painless assisted suicide. Now, if you yourself think having children is a bad idea, then by all means, do not procreate, and feel free to try to convince others to do the same. Beyond that, I think you'll be creating more problems than you solve. This is what I mean when I say that antinatalism is impractical. So as far as Inmendum's other criticisms, just for the record, no, I did not really mean to imply that Liam in particular is a depressed emo kid, although in hindsight I see how my comment could be interpreted that way. I haven't seen much of his material, but he seems to be a well-adjusted human being with a good head on his shoulders. It was not meant to be snide or demeaning to him, and certainly was not meant to be any sort of argument, so once again, I apologize. I was merely stating the fact that I myself was a depressed emo teenager when I myself had a realization quite similar to the premise he laid out. Yes, it's something I grew out of, and I am quite the cheerful optimist now. Sorry. Also, I did not need to mention that I personally believe life exists elsewhere in the universe. It wasn't relevant to the discussion at hand. I'm happy to talk about that in another video, though. And yes, I believe in evolution. I really don't know where that came from, Gary. And things are getting better, at least in regards to human-on-human violence. Steven Pinker will soon be releasing a book on the subject, but here's a link to a TED Talk where he lays out some of his ideas. RabidApe out.